Are microchips safe? You know, every once in a while, stories go around about pets whose seizures or other debilitating health condition resolves immediately once their microchip is removed. I have not been personally involved in any of these cases, so I don't know if any of them have any degree of truth. Um, but what they do have is a lot of fear, and I'm kind of anti-fear in my world. So let's talk about microchips. From the perspective of holistic health, I find implanted microchips a troubling concept. I mean, I don't want a chip implanted in me. Pet finder microchips are meant to be inert and passive until they get activated by the microchip scanner, the microchip reader, right? Which emits radio frequencies that connect with the antenna in the chip, and then they get information. Well, radio frequencies, now they're kind of ubiquitous in the modern world. There's electronic devices that send information through the air, Wi-Fi routers and cell phones and all kinds of other networks, smart homes. They're sending information all the time. And it seems reasonable that one of those chips could be activated by some of these other non-native frequencies. Radio frequency energy is a type of non-ionizing radiation. And by that, we're meant to believe that it does not affect DNA. But it does cause the atoms to vibrate, and that can generate heat. And quite frankly, I remain unconvinced that we really thoroughly understand the atomic level of health, biology, and disease progression. That's just me. I think we have a lot more to learn and discover about the effects of this kind of constant exposure to low-level radiation. I think my jury is still out on that topic. That said, both of my dogs are microchipped. It was done by their breeders before they became my dogs. Their breeders did it as a gift, as a service. The chips are permanently connected to those breeders. So should I be remiss and not update my information or lose my dogs and not be available, they will get contacted. And I know the breeders of my dogs have actually done so. They have gone and picked up dogs that they bred that where their owners were unable to be reached. So that's pretty nice. Had I been given the choice whether to chip them or not, I'm torn. I don't know what I would have chosen. I could choose to have the chips removed. That should be easy, but it might not be. Chips are usually implanted, at kind of the base of the neck between the shoulder blades, and sometimes they remain superficial and you can feel them, and maybe just a little local anesthetic and a sedative and you could pop them out. But if they've migrated, then you might need anesthesia and x-rays to find them. I like to give my terriers, I got my terriers, and they're spicy little dogs and they're very independent. And I like to give them the freedom to roam because I think that serves their long-term holistic health. A chip makes it a little more possible and probable that I will get them back if they roam a little too far. Of course, for that to work, I've got to keep the information updated, and also the finder of my dog has to go and request that they get scanned for a microchip. And there are some interesting legal mazes that put us in really unexpected and uncomfortable places regarding reading a chip. A shelter is legally required to do everything within their power to identify the rightful owner of any dog that comes their way. But a veterinarian is under a lot more scrutiny and is a lot more beholden to whatever the person presenting as the animal's owner says and wants. So that being said, having visible identification is really the best way. And most people think about looking for a tag. So if you have a collar, I had a collar with the dogs with my number stitched on the collar, and a woman brought the dog to the shelter because she didn't think to read the big bright neon collar that had my phone number on it. So a tag is what most people are going to look for, but tags can fall off, collars can break or fall off, or like my dogs don't wear a collar 24 hours a day, and if they were to slip out the door, they would have no collar. Um, a tattoo somewhere visible, like the ear or the groin, is probably the best, most reliable form of visible identification. But the finder has to think to look for that, right? And if you've got a really furry dog with no naked spots, that could be pretty subtle. It could be pretty easy to miss a tattoo. Plus, I mean, um, uh, contact information can change, and tattoo ink can bleed, and tattoo ink itself could be a little problematic. So there's stuff about that. So what I'm getting at is there's no, I'm sorry, there's no easy answer to anything, right? I would rather focus on things that I can prevent and predict and manage, getting outside, getting out of that indoor Wi-Fi electrosmog that's in pretty much every indoor environment these days, getting your bare feet on the ground, getting your dog's bare feet on the ground, going out, doing enriched activities like fetch and nose work and walks in the woods and all kinds of other training and engagement activities, managing the household cleaners in your home and feeding them as clean a diet that's nutritionally balanced as you can possibly do. These are all things that we can think something about, right? Chips, we may or may not be able to do something about it. And again, a lot of competition venues and international travel is requiring RFID chips now in animals. So, you're kind of over a barrel. So let's focus on what we know, what we don't know, and what we can actually do, no matter what the ultimate answer is. If you like this kind of an approach, subscribe to my channel. I'd love to hear your comments. Tell me what you think. I've got a Happy, Hairy, Holistic Pets with Dr. Heather group on Facebook where we have wonderful conversations. This is the topic of my next newsletter, so maybe it's come out already by the time you watch this video. If you're not on my newsletter list, please subscribe. Watch me on the Insta and the Facebook, and really come talk to me. This is what I like to do. I like to think about things, talk about things, and come up with reasonable solutions so that we can all just go on and be happy with our lives and enjoy our dogs, right? Thank you.